This week, we're talking about Asteroid City. I went to go see Shucked and Diablo IV, The World is Falling, but your host is Mike Indeglio.
What is up, team? Welcome to K&M Geekly for this week, June 25th, 2023. I'm Mike Indeglio. That's my good buddy, the new president of Russia, Keith Varney.
Events on your calendar for tomorrow.
Oh, thank you.
And that's Siri.
That's Siri. Just two geeks talking about some of the things that I'm going to be getting through this week. And this week, Keith, breaking news waits for no man. So clearly this week's going to be a lot of news watching. We're going to talk a little current events up at the top in real time, like moments before.
Quite literally,
yeah,
yes.
So we are definitely not politically savvy enough or smart enough to give you actual news. We're just going to talk about it. So
well, by the time you see this, it'll be very old news, but as a time capsule, it is 11:40 a.m. on June 24th, as the Wagner forces are charging Moscow. By the time you see this, you're going to know how that turned out. It's looking really crazy and really fluid right now. But I did want to say, which I think is fascinating, outside of the specifics of the news, that right now, because I've been glued to it since last night, the best source of information that I've had is TikTok, of all things. For better and worse, right? It is an unfiltered pipeline of information from all over the place. So it's obviously just people talking, right? People from all over the world giving what they call news. Now, of course, it's unverified. I don't know who these people are. I don't know the sources. I don't know their biases or whatever. But as I've been watching all these TikToks and then seeing what they're reporting come true, showing up on CNN and MSNBC or whatever about an hour and a half later, it has been interesting how much of the information has been accurate. And because it's coming from Russia, it's coming from Ukraine, it's coming from all of these places. So I don't know. It's definitely take it with a tremendous grain of salt, but it has been fascinating to see this footage show up an hour and a half later on the regular news sites, which of course have to verify before they post it, which is how it should be. But it's been fascinating.
How it should be, for sure. Not always that way, as much as we'd like, I think. Actually, this story is a great analogy for me, at least, as to what our news is recently. It became very clear to me. So this is Keith and I were talking off air before it actually all came to pass, that it's hard to root for any side here. I mean, you can really kind of headline it, but at the end of the day, these things are very nuanced and very...
Yeah, I mean, Wagner versus Putin is Alien versus Predator, but we all can root for Ukraine, who this definitely benefits.
Yes, if you have to. And that's kind of what my point is. Isn't it kind of nuts that the way that the news, quote unquote, has turned into entertainment and has basically turned into left-right, which used to be a thing because it has just become right-wrong, good guy, bad guy. That's just how we paint things these days. It's like everything's professional wrestling. You got the good guy, you got the bad guy.
For sure.
They beat up and then you cheer for somebody. And then sometimes they flip and sometimes they flip back and there's no rules. And, we had a tragedy this week. A bunch of human beings died in a submersible going to the Titanic is one way to look at it. Or you could say, a bunch of billionaires got their just desserts for being...
But the real story is, while we were all focusing on those 5 billionaires in a submarine, 700 people drowned, trying to get to Greece, fleeing, as trying to immigrate in there, and we just didn't care. 700 people, like something on the scale close to the actual Titanic, we utterly ignored.
This is the problem, man, because what you just said, it took too many seconds. You can't. That's not a headline, Keith. Headline is billionaires die. Or tragic implosion, right? It's just we don't have enough time to nuance, and it's getting a little crazy. I'm reading a book about trying to get back some understanding of nuance and backing off of that type of consumption, which is really hard for me. Anyway, speaking of, I'm binging Succession finally, which everyone said was the greatest show on television. So I was like, I can't watch it then during the time. So now I'm watching after the fact. Hey, guess what? It's actually pretty good. So
That's great. Okay.
a lot of stuff, a lot of crazy things going on, but that is not what we had planned to talk about. So
no, we had a whole show built. But, that's life.
Let's start. I want to start with a movie that I couldn't wait to talk about. I couldn't wait to see. Blockbusters left and right this summer, Keith, asking for your dollars. But then there's also still auteurs out there making movies that potentially have something to say rather than just superheroes, which I love watching fly around. Don't get me wrong. But I went to see Wes Anderson's latest film, and that is called Asteroid City. I just went yesterday. And let me give you some facts and details here. 2023 American. It was directed by Wes Anderson, screenplay Wes Anderson, story by Wes Anderson and Roman Coppola, produced by, you guessed it, Wes Anderson. Starring Jason Schwartzman, Scarlett Johansson, Tom Hanks, Jeffrey Wright, Tilda Swinton.
It's usual people.
It's a Wes Anderson film with the Wes Anderson ensemble.
Players.
And then cameos upon cameos upon cameos. Now, if you don't know, I love Wes Anderson because he is just that, a singular mind, a singular visionary. You like his stuff, you don't like his stuff. But when you see it, you see the fingerprint. You know that's a Wes Anderson joint. And listen, you and I both come from an art form where collaboration is key. So it's not always a win-win when a single creator helms this much control over a project. But like your Tim Burtons, like your Scorsese's, sometimes it gives masterpieces.
Tarantino,
yeah. And so it's cool seeing these guys still doing their stuff. Sofia Coppola, she does, anyway, so I go to see this movie, and it is, first things first, I've talked on this podcast before, I love stop motion and claymation because of, you can see the work and the effort and the creativity, not just second to second, but frame by frame. This film, most of his films, but this film as well, feels like a stop motion film. You can tell that he painstakingly thought about each frame of each scene. And Keith, why I think you might be drawn to this. Now, let me say what my general critique, I love that about his films. I love the soundtracks to his films. I love the visual, everything about his films, except sometimes I feel often he keeps the emotional gooiness, everything at arm's length. It is all, there's so much allegory in most of these pictures, and he usually paints his main protagonists as very guarded individuals. Jason Schwartzman is just kind of that way, and he's in most of the stuff. Right. That's usually my critique. I like a little bit more, me, Keith, I like to cry. Let me cry on camera. Yeah.
You do indeed.
So this is a film ostensibly about a group of characters who are drawn to this asteroid site and have a extraterrestrial, it is raining, extraterrestrial experience and dealing with that. That's the first layer of the onion. It is then about most of these people are seeking connection, and some are dealing with grief. Well, then it's also about working through grief. But then it's also about youth kind of having to take the forefront, because a lot of times the generation above us are just sad, broken people, and you have to take the baton. It's about aging. It's every time I watch one of these films, well, let me just narrow in here. This was an hour and 34 minutes. And every 5 minutes that went by, I was like, oh boy, it's about this. Oh boy, it's about that. And for you, Keith, it's also about putting together what happens to a work of fiction, a work of art, when you release it to the public, right? And then it gets reimagined. So this movie itself starts as a film documentary, a televised film of a stage play of a movie. It's a play within a movie, but in the past. but then it's a fictionalized version of that. So there's actors playing stage actors appearing in the film. So all of those levels. It's about levels is what the movie's about. And ultimately, it's asking questions as big as, what is the cosmos? Who are we? Why are we here? And it gives you no answer. And I think if I really boil it down, it's Wes Anderson basically being a oh my God. Not knowing about religion or grief or whatnot, not having the answers. About us as
Agnostic.
humans. Agnostic, yeah. As just us humans saying, I don't know. You know what? It's a little too big for me. And that's what the film is. It's all of those things. It is asking the biggest of questions and boiling down through. I need to see it about 12 more times. What I really loved about it is there is a heart at the center of this. And for the first time, there are cracks in some of the characters where you can see their brokenness and you can see that down deep there is some fractured hurt. And that he doesn't always let you into that. And I just think that he's probably gotten from aging and just from living a little bit more at the vulnerability, I think helps the film. It is some great performances. Every scene is amazingly shot and set up. It feels like a stage work. It's use of backdrops. It's use of subtle visual comedy. Oh, it's just it's a great one. It's a great one.
It's interesting because like I think every time I have actually forced myself to sit down and watch a Wes Anderson, I'm like, yeah, no, this is good. I connected to it. I just have such a hard time with the tweeness and the like affectation of it all. Mm-hmm. I just like I see it. It's beautiful. I see what's happening there, and I'm like, I'm just not that interested.
I absolutely feel you, and because you often think you ask this question a lot. What is it serving for the story, right? It can't just be in fact, there's a scene in this film where one of the actors taking place in the presentation goes to talk to the director, right? He breaks through the fourth wall and walks through the thing and he goes to speak to the director. It's not Wes Anderson, but it's you, Keith. It's the creator of a work. And he says, am I doing it right? And he says, well, it's a little over-affected. The mustache is too much. You're doing too much. But
we be a little bit free? It's just like, oh.
Yeah. And he says as much. He's like, yeah, it's too much. It's too affected. It's too all of that. But at the same time, you're doing them right. And you're like, I don't even know what that's saying, but it's a commentary on it's so much.
It sounds like it's really, really good. It's going to be hard to get me to watch it because I think it feels incredibly pretentious.
It's not.
Every shot of the movie, every performance, everything about it feels incredibly pretentious. Now, I'm not saying it's not brilliant as well. Mm-hmm. It seems like it is brilliant. And to be fair, what I've seen has been. But it just pulls me out so much. I don't like anything. I'm like, you guys are all a bunch of fart sniffers. I don't necessarily need to see
That's
this.
interesting you feel that way. I can definitely understand that, but I think this is a film, at least its subject matter, and it's got, I love a sci-fi like faux version of like a Fallout version of the 50s, and there's that kind of stuff. There's a lot of science in it, and I think that enough of the aesthetic and the milieu will appeal to you that you'll be able to. And it's asking questions that appeal to specifically us.
No, and I think I'm revealing my own biases as much as anything about Wes Anderson. I just have a certain revulsion to that.
If you have the means to get to a theater, there was literally no one else in my theater. So, I understand it's still a weird time, but this is the type of movie I feel like we should be paying money to see at the box office so people like this keep making films. If you do watch it in the theater or at home, I would say my suggestion going in is like, don't try to unravel the puzzle box as you're watching it. Just take it in. I think that let those first few layers of the onion hit you, and then I'm definitely going to watch this one again. It's like a glass onion. I just want to kind of watch it again. So anyway, I really liked it. I'm giving a thumbs up to Asteroid City. My biases are opposite. I really like his stuff. And this is the first one I actually felt a little more heart beating in the center of it. So there you have it. Keith, speaking of heart beating in the center of it.
Yeah. So let's talk about I took myself on a date this week to go see the Broadway musical Shucked. And it's funny because last week we talked about the review of the Tonys,
Mm-hmm.
and this was a performance that you were like, I don't know how much that made me want to go see it. And I'm like, you know what? I want to go see it.
Yep.
And I put my money where my mouth is. I put my butt where the seat is, and went to go see Shucked, which it's this really silly, zany, bad pun, dad joke musical about these wacky people in a town obsessed with corn. And it was sort of originally designed to be a hee-haw musical. If you remember the show from back in the day, and then it eventually moved away from that. But it's written by these country music writers who have won like 70 million different Grammys, that kind of stuff. And you can see like, oh, these people know what they're doing in the score. It's silly, it's stupid, it's full of all these jokes, but it has a great deal more heart than I expected it to have. And the score was so great.
Good.
Very, very appealing, very fun, very like you can really connect to it right on the first listen.
There is a central story, like there is a book?
Yeah, no, it's a book musical, and it's this they're trying to the corn goes bad in the town, so our female protagonist has to leave the town for the first time in her life and try to find someone who can rescue it, and it turns out to be a con man who comes in, and then all these sort of things happen as a result. So you're not gonna it's not gonna change your mind. It's just sort of silly and fun, but it's heartfelt and funny. If you're willing to go along with like the stupid hee-haw jokes, then it's a blast. Performances are great. What
do you think its legs are like in the theater past this run?
Oh, I think it'll do great.
Yeah.
I think it's going to tour well, and I also think that as a regional property, every regional theater in all of human space and time,
great,
is going to do this. Also, you could totally do it at high schools. You could totally, for the most part, you could. I think it has huge legs moving forward. It's cheap. It's simple. There's just one static set. It's not even necessary. You don't even need a set. The cast is great. Obviously, Alex Newell just won the Tony, but she melts the theater. And like I heard like big number in Act 1. I'd heard the recording of It's Better Live.
Wow,
it's stupid.
She should get a shelf, Keith.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's cool. One of two non-binary actors who won Tonys this year. I would also like to. There were a couple of understudies on, so as the Maisie, Tracy Elaine Lee did Maisie, and Yasmin Suleiman did Storyteller 1, and they were phenomenal. And I'd like to point out once again, the standbys and understudies on Broadway are fantastic. I have no idea if they've gone on a ton or this is their first time on. I didn't even know who was out, and I checked at intermission, and I'm like, oh, that's not the main Maisie. Oh wow.
I guess I didn't keep it on. That's funny that you do that too. I do that too. I often, everybody loves to get their playbill and read it all and like devour it before the show starts. I'm actually of the belief or the habit of not reading the inserts of who's out until intermission because I don't want to be. I'm never biased, but I like to be amazed at how seamless it is, and I would never have guessed. So
no, utterly seamless. And I checked to make sure Alex was in, but that was it. But and I'll say the other thing. So definitely go see it. And I also had the magical experience. It was a Wednesday matinee, but it was packed. I mean, totally sold out. Not an empty seat in the theater, except for the seat right to my left and the seat right to my right.
The best, Keith.
It was
it's the dream.
It was a miracle, especially at the Nederlander, which has tiny seats for larger fellows like me.
Although my dream, the true dream for me is nobody in front of me because I'm a shorter fellow. So I prefer that. I'd squeeze my butt between two peeps to get a straighter view. But
well, I was up in the mezzanine, and at the Niederlander, it's pretty steep up in the mezzanine, so it was great.
Well, this is always on TDF, so I've been thinking about it.
Yeah, well, mine were TDF seats. So.
Okay, yeah, I might check it out. I'm trying to put together a Broadway day where I just go see all the big stuff. So
yeah, so it's similar to how like you're into Wes Anderson and I'm not. I don't know, like I think you'd like it, but you might not because it's a little silly.
I don't mind silly as long as there's a book. Like I didn't know if it was just all the funny corn stuff. Like I'm sure it is. Like I didn't know there was.
I mean, there's a lot of corn there. But no, of course it's got a whole story. It's got a book.
Okay, yeah, I'd be into it. I think.
There it is. Go see Shucked, folks.
We can't always agree, Keith, but it is nice that when we fervently disagree, people will agree with me the most. Which
oh my god,
I'm so excited about.
If you haven't watched the last episode of Strange New Show, holy crap!
You swayed JD though. JD's a big seat on the board that you got, but just about everybody else is on my side.
The ocean of flack I have taken for not liking that crappy episode.
Keith, you're burying the lead. Remember, good guy, bad guy. I get to be the good guy this week, which is nice. I don't often win.
I'm rarely the heel on the Star Trek shows, but here I am.
Speaking of the Star Trek shows and stuff, Keith and I are doing a family picnic with our patrons this Tuesday at 7 p.m. If you want to get in on that, there's still time.
Still time to join.
All you have to do is join our patrons over at patreon.com/KNM. They get all kinds of fun stuff. In fact, this first ever live stream, which we'll see.
We're watching Star Trek 5. Unofficially
doing that. I'm going to have it on a projector behind me, so you'll see. No, I don't know the legalities of what. Anyway, we'd like to thank these following folks, Keith.
Yes, indeed. Bryant Kimball, Beersack, Wyatt Eldridge, Casey Clark, Jason Moe, Bren Joshua, Andrew Hayes, Jorge Navoa, and the mysterious Worf's Bootshivs, Charles Babbage, Richard Coleman, CRM Productions, Nikolai Ivanovich Lobachevsky, Delusions at Noon, JD Makes, Colin Dagan, Chris Mitchell, Pat, and Joshua Cronin.
You can join that team, patreon.com/KNM. Keith, let's go ahead and quickly talk about a weekly rad. Now, I'm going to start. I think I've mentioned before, I'm a solo gamer. I like to game by myself. But when we did do co-op as kids or whatnot, it was always co-op. We never played we never played sports games against each other. We were very non-confrontational gamers.
You're so different than my family.
Yeah. But then as I've gotten older, it's hard to kind of find those experiences. Well, folks, there's this game out, Diablo IV. I don't need to tell you, it is a famous property by Blizzard Entertainment. And the long and short of it is you're a person or a group of people. I happen to be a necromancer, Keith, so I can raise the dead. And you go and you slay, the demons and the undead and all of that kind of good stuff. And you can also join up in a party. And so my brother and I have been getting together at nighttime. And we are terrible at these games. Look, it's also a role-playing game, so you get into the minutia of what your gear does and what stats does it buff, and then you get all of your ability points, and there's a skill tree that is enormous, and you have to meticulously plot your thing through to build your build, roll your character and all your different skills. What's awesome about this game is it gives you the ability to, at any time, for pretty cheap, respec your entire skill tree. So you can get all your points back, and then respend them and just change your build, change your different play style and whatnot, depending on who you're playing with or whatnot. Now,
your tea is ready.
Yeah, Jen. I'm very terrible at all of that kind of stuff. I enjoy it if I really get into a game, but in an action thing like this, but I will say this: and so I've tried Diablo 3 and Diablo 2. It's never been they're just not my jam, right? Because the story is there and the cutscenes are great and the voice acting is great. The production value is through the roof, but it's not really about, it's not like it is what it is. It's not for me. I probably would have passed on this game entirely because it's just not my general jam. But cross-platform play. So my brother's over on his PlayStation. I'm here on my PC. We can just jump in. There's no trouble finding each other. There's no trouble logging in.
That's nice.
It's freaking seamless. I'm like, hey, you want to slay demons? Sure. Within 5 minutes. And my brother specifically tech is not his thing. But we're in. and we're just goofy, having fun, taking down huge monsters, numbers bouncing everywhere, lights flashing, shooting. He's got a laser beam, and every time he shoots his laser beam, Keith, he goes insane. He screams and hoots like he's 6 years old. I have what we call corpse explosion. So I have these little undead minions, and they leave little blood packets everywhere when they kill baddies, and then I hit my button, and it blows up like they're landmines of corpse blood. And I'm like, woo! Like, we are children playing this game. And so, my weekly rad is Diablo IV is great. If it's a game you're interested in, you're going to get it. I'm not reviewing the video game. But even those of us who just like to do it my single self, I don't want to deal. There is that joy when you find the right people to play video games with.
Yeah.
Whether it's
100%.
Mario, like everybody chaos throwing each other, or playing Wii bowling with a buddy, or NHL, whatever it is, that joy has not gone away. You just sometimes have to find the right people. So game with your friends. Hey, if you get together, play a board game with friends. It's always better with friends. Keith, you're a role-playing gamer for the ages, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. And I think that I mean, some of the most fun times I've had are playing NHL with my brother, or whatever, or Halo on tour.
Yeah,
like the quad box Halo. That was always, I mean, so
I'm
much.
With Game Pass, buddy. There's so many Gears, Halo. There's all kinds of stuff we could be playing too.
I know. I don't know why.
I guess we spent a lot of time together.
We spent so much time. Because here's the sad part: like when we're not on the air, like we're texting each other nonsense. It's really.
We
sad.
did start that Star Trek game. We should be playing that.
Oh right, yeah. Anyway, yes, no. I'm glad to hear that it's easy to connect because, I mean, I remember the Command and Conquer days, and where I, because it was almost impossible to do online, but we could connect two PCs. I don't know if it was a
LAN parties,
Scuzzy Slaughter, and so me and my brother would play Command and Conquer against each other, like with two PCs facing each other. That was the shit.
I will say the only thing right now is that I'm so used, because Diablo 3 has been out for so long that it's available for free everywhere, like your PlayStation Plus, your Xbox Game Pass, whatever. This is still a full price game at $70, not on Game Pass, not on these things. So it's so hard to be like, hey Keith, I really want to play with you, pick it up. Because I know that, 6 months to a year down the line, it's going to be free somewhere, or, in a subscription.
And I'm a cheap bastard. I'm going to do that.
No, but that's most people. Like $70 is expensive for anybody.
Well, for a game.
You know what I mean? Especially with so many good games coming out, it's tough. You gotta pick and choose. I get it. Yeah. Keith, what's your weekly rad this week?
Oh boy, my weekly rad is the story that I promised on one of the other shows. I forget it was. So I told the story way back when on some show, I don't remember, of the first time that Charlie, my beloved rescue cat, threw a mouse at me. Which just very quickly woke up in the middle of the night, heard rustling around, turned the lights on, and Charlie has found a mouse. And my bed is up really high. It's like 3.5 feet, 4 feet off the ground. And he swipes at the mouse, sends it flying up into the air, and was going to land in my bed if I didn't block it with the sheets. So thanks, buddy. And I thought, what a crazy singular experience that would never, ever happen again, because it's crazy. That's a crazy thing to have happen. Well, cue to 2 days ago, I'm sitting right here at this desk. And as I've mentioned before, right above the desk is a window well, because I'm in the basement, that I've decked out and blocked out with a roof, so that Charlie can go be in the window well and hang out and be a little indoor-outdoor like his little cat Lanai. Well, so I'm sitting here, I'm trying to work, and he starts like, wah! Screeching and scrabbling around the edge of it, and I guess like a mole was trying to get in, but he reaches, he pulls it out, and I'm like, oh god, and then he bats it once again. The window's only this much open, straight out the window, and directly on top of my audio interface. So I have a little right above my desk. I have a little shelf where I have my audio interfaces and my USB hub, and drops a half dead mole onto my audio interface.
Gross. I didn't know it was so visceral.
But the dumbass doesn't even know that he's done it. So he's frantically searching. You can
For
do
a
it, Mike.
sneeze. I was searching for a sneeze.
Frantically searching for this mole while I'm shouting at him. It's right here. Please get rid of this.
Where's he going to take it? It's done. He did his duty.
Well, I thought so. I thought like, oh, it's dead. All right. I went to get a coffee can.
Oh no, it's gone.
To knock it into the coffee can, that I can take it outside and deal with it. But while I'm getting the coffee can, the damn thing wakes up. And then Charlie finally notices down there. He dives down on my desk. The mole falls off of the interface down to the floor under my desk. Charlie goes flying out, and he like attacks it again under the desk. And then
this is the best day of his life, P.S.
Oh my God, he's having such a good time. I'm freaking the freak out. and so he eventually pulls it out so it's at my feet. And at this point, like, I've got the willies. Totally got the willies, you know. And now I think now it's really dead. It's officially dead. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, he can't find it, even though it's right there in front of his stupid cat. So I get the coffee can and I sort of like push it into the coffee can. It wakes up again. I have to slam the thing closed. And I hear skittering around in the bottom there. Charlie's freaking out because I took his mole. I try to go up the steps to go and let it out. And as I'm going up the steps, like freaked out, I've got the willies, you know, he's like as a mouse. The cat like leaps between my legs, trips me. I fall up the stairs, drop the can, and it goes rolling. And I let out a like shriek, like a little girl being murdered. I'm so glad I was the only person in the house. I'm surprised yeah, but I was like, God damn it, Charlie! But it's like, God damn it, Charlie! Like just like this noise that I just don't make in
Keith,
real life.
Was it twee? Almost Wes Anderson-esque?
It was not twee. It was very visceral and emotional because I was.
This is my Wes Anderson version of Keith screaming.
Yeah, exactly. Mine was much more like somebody call the cops because a little girl is being murdered in the basement. But no, it was me. And so luckily it didn't get out. So I take the coffee can up and I take it outside. Charlie's like freaking out. And then I put it out on the lawn and I'm like, this thing is 3/4 dead and suffering. So I have to freaking dispatch this vole on my lawn
blunt force trauma
with a rake, freaking out. Like I'm all like,
did you have to, or you felt like it needed to be put out of its misery?
It would have been cruel.
So really, headline here is Charlie's bad at his job.
He's terrible at his job. but I was so freaked out. I was like, I need to like do this quickly and do this. I broke my rake.
Oh no!
Like I like twisted the metal part all around itself. Anyway, it was horrible. I did the deed.
How hard were you hitting this vole if it was 3/4 dead to break your rake?
Really hard because I did not want. I wanted no. I was like, because you don't want to like it's even worse.
Excessive force.
No, I didn't want. I did not want to leave it to chance. I didn't want it waking up and suffering. So I bent the steel on the rake doing this, and then I buried the poor guy, and I wished him well in whatever's next for moles. But
well, you know what they say, Keith. One man's humane is another man's torture.
Well, at least I tried to make it fast. It was horrible, and I'm like, I'm like type working on a script, and then stupid cat throws rodents at me.
I've yet to have that experience. Now, on occasion, a mosquito or like a bug or a moth will get in, and the cats will. You know, it's surprising for the two boys. I think they love each other. It's an attraction for the ages. It's really a love story.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, find yourself a cat that looks at you the way my one cat looks at the other cat. But the girl, she really does not like them. She does not want anything to do with the boys unless there's a moth in the apartment. In which case, the law of nature takes over. They've got a hunting hierarchy already established. One runs interference, one chases, one swats, and one observes. And then they all try to eat. It's a really interesting...
No, Charlie loves moths.
Oh, yeah.
He's great at moths, but not so good with rodents. So, I rule of threes. I can't wait to see what
next?
new rodent.
You got to boil it down though. So your weekly rad is cats.
Is the delightful chaos that a pet brings you. You just never know what's going to happen. It's always going to be exciting. And
look, but here's the rule of pets, folks. Keith and I are going to give it to you right now. I've had a lot of experience with it this week. Know your chaos. Don't choose a pet that will bring you more chaos than you are prepared to handle. Mm-hmm. That's it, right? Maybe you don't need a puppy. Puppy, maybe too much chaos.
What?
Cat,
too much chaos?
Eating half a mole? That's a lot. But most human beings, a Keith can handle that.
I did handle it. I made some noises I'm not proud of, but I did handle it.
Do you want a full dog or do you want a dog with only half teeth, hangy tongue?
Yeah. She did not. Pretzel hunts nothing.
No. Keith, I don't know Pretzel's future, but I hope it remains your arms because every time you send a picture and you're just chilling with Pretzel, it is the fucking cutest thing I've ever seen.
We're the best. And she's the best.
I chose the F word there specifically because it deserved it.
All right. There it is.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we did it. Pretty much. We could, if Keith's story hadn't been that long, there hadn't been an epilogue.
You're gonna give me flack.
If there hadn't been an epilogue, we would have hit the 30-minute.
I could have written a great American novel with your monologue about some obscure thing I've never seen every week.
Hey guys, people said they wanted more of Keith and I fighting, so we're just trying to do it. Do you know what? I would never yuck his yum, though. Don't let anyone yuck your yum. Until we see you next week, keep on geeking on. I'm Mike Indeglio. That's Keith Varney. Hey, whatever happens in the world, you still got family, all right? Till next time.